Welcome, my friends, to It's Vinylly Mine. Mark the Movie Man here. Thank you so much for joining us today, and you voted for it on the Special Mark Productions Facebook group. So today we are going to talk about Shaft. Damn straight. Yes, Shaft. From 1971, from the film of the same name, this soundtrack double LP is number ENS 25002 for those that care. It's Isaac Hayes, the composer and writer of the music, both the instrumental and the vocal tracks on the soundtrack. And this is got the gold label on it, which means that this actually was sold or was labeled after they sold 500,000 copies, and we'll go a little bit into the label later. Now, this was the best-selling LP ever released on Stax Records, on the Stacker record label, so that, of course, also it has it going for it. And the Library of Congress in 2014 actually registered this with the National Recording Registry, so you know, it's for its cultural significance, because it is culturally significant. This soundtrack, I think, really set up the kind of bar that everybody expected for the films to come after it. Now, Hayes had composed actually 3 pieces from raw footage for this soundtrack. He created the title song, the theme from Shaft. He created Soulsville and Ellie's Love theme, and he did those just from the raw footage, and the studio loved those so much that they asked him to do the entire soundtrack, which I found was great. You know, they're like, hey, why don't you do the whole thing? Now, those pieces were re-recorded later and slightly rearranged from the film versions at the MGM Studios facility, where they had a 3-track system, which Hayes felt was a richer sound, according to the information I find. So he wanted, even though he liked the recording they did at Stax Record, he was able to use MGM's technology to give it even a more richer sound. Now, the National Association of Television and Radio Announcers gave this the Album of the Year award. And, as many of you know, this would go on to win the Academy Award for Best Original Song, which made Isaac Hayes the first African American to win a non-acting Oscar. Plus, it was up for a Best Score as well, but it lost, unfortunately, to This Summer of 42, which is also a great score. This is a fantastic album, and there's a lot more history behind it, but right now we're going to cover and take a closer look at this cover, so why don't we snap to it, shall we? Alright, so let's take a look at this front cover of this LP, the double LP of Shaft soundtrack. Now, it's MGM's Shaft, the bright purple lettering, which I love. It stands out. I think it really grabs you and pulls you in. And then you can see the image of Mr. Roundtree as Shaft in mid-fire shooting up some bad guys, and a great portrait of Mr. Isaac Hayes on the cover for a great musician. The title and who performs this soundtrack is on the top. As Isaac Hayes' name, of course, is up there, though mine has some damage along the top, unfortunately, for my version here, but still, you can see what it says, and also the picture itself is still pretty intact. Lower left corner is the Enterprise Records logo for this, and the label, the Gold Record Award label. Now, what that signified is this album sold 500,000 copies, and this is a 1971 print, so within that year, Shaft sold 500,000 copies, and then they adhered this label to ones after it hit that milestone. So my copy here was one that was at least purchased after it hit the 500,000 record sold milestone, which is great. It's just a great accomplishment for a great soundtrack. Now, on the back of the soundtrack, we have a slight brief summary of who's involved with this. We also have the credits here for who performed the music on the soundtrack, or who wasn't on specific tracks, which I find very interesting that some of the people mentioned on here goes, well, they were on all of this track except this one. And so it's just little interesting tidbits of trivia, as well as a credit of who did the cover art for this and the credits to the film. Along the bottom, of course, we see the text for music from the film courtesy of MGM Record Corporation, though this is put out by Enterprise Records. Records, that is actually a division of Stax Records, which Isaac Hayes did have a history with. Now, on the back cover here, we have the director of Shaft, Mr. Gordon Parks, along with Joel Friedman and Isaac Hayes standing there in front of the recording studio. I really like that picture. It's a great picture of them. They look like they just came out of a really great session of recording. So I'd like to think of the story behind this picture. Now, if we go to the inside, because this is a gatefold, this was a thing that surprised me when I first bought it. Not so much this section here, where we get kind of what we've seen before, but here you actually have an ad in here for some more music from Mr. Isaac Hayes. And I love the wording on this. Butter your soul with movement, which is to be continued by Black Moses. And these are great albums of Isaac Hayes, and the fact that they have this ad actually printed on the inside of the gatefold was what impressed me, because usually you get ads like that when you have a sleeve, but not necessarily have that actually permanently printed with inside of the cover itself. Now, here at the top, we do have pictures of the production that went on, as well as a couple stills from the movie, but you can also see Isaac Hayes in action recording some tracks and working on some music for this score. We have here a little more detailed summary of Shaft, actually kind of telling you the story of Shaft and who plays which character, which I also like quite a bit. I really dig the stills as well, especially some of the behind the scenes stuff. Those are always interesting and great to see those. Now, if we open it up and pull the records out of this, it has, as I mentioned, it is a 2 LP record set. So we have album 1 and album 2 here, both in their original sleeves. They're a little crinkled. So yeah, it's great though, because again, we have a listing here to where you can put them in order of the back of the that's in the back of the album cover, and you can do your vinyl and chill, so you can stack these like this and they will play in order. So you got side 1 album 1 and side 1 album 2. So if you put them like this and then you have to flip them over, and then you've got this, and then it'll play through and yeah, play them in order that they were in the movie. So I really always like that, like we saw with the Star Wars albums. And it's got a great Enterprise logo, the rainbow logo as well. On here is the listing of who was on the tracks, so that's great. And how about this track on album 1 side 2, the last track here just before the end theme, is 19 minutes and 38 seconds, and it's a great track. And it's just, I love that they've got this super long track and then the end theme, so it's really great to listen to. Speaking of listening to, I'm going to take just a short break here. When I come back, I'll let you know what are my 2 favorite tracks from this, and if you should check it out and if it's worth a listen. So stay tuned. Check out Central Battery Music Works, yes, the website of our composer who makes music tracks just like the one you're hearing underneath our episode today. There's a lot of great stuff there, so why don't you head on over there when you're done watching our video. Now, back to the show. And there you have it, folks, the Shaft soundtrack from 1971. Hope this wet your whistle and hope you seek it out, because I really think it is worth your time. It's got some great tracks on it. All the songs on here I really dig, but especially not only the theme from Shaft, but my other 2 tracks on here, Bumpy's Lament, for obvious reasons, and that is a popular one, but also Soulsville. I really dig Soulsville. So check it out. If you have checked it out or you have this album, give your thoughts. Please leave your comments down below. Love to hear what you think of this soundtrack and this LP set. I thank you as always, and remember, it's not yours, it's vinylly mine, and I'll see you on the flip side.